Alex Zinchenko, he's still here. A few weeks ago, we were really sure he was on his way to Wolves. I think everybody was sure he was on his way to Wolves. But right at the death on the last day of the season, last day of the transfer window, he decided not to go to Wolves. There's rumours now that Real Betis in Spain are looking at him either as a loan or a purchase. I'd be surprised actually if he went there, considering he turned down Wolves, a place in the Premier League. And some of the things he said about City, if you look at the Amazon Prime documentary, he's absolutely in love with the club. He's got a lot of respect for the club and he feels he owes the club something. He's got a special bond. And if you look at some of his backstory, he was in Ukraine, a lot of problems as you are aware, political problems and a war in Ukraine. His family moved to Russia and I think he had nowhere to play football for about 6 months. He was just knocking it about with his mates to keep fit. And then City came along and whisked him off to Manchester. So I think he's got that special bond. He just doesn't want to leave the club. And as I said, if you take on board what he said about the club, and I think that will kind of give you a feeling as to how strong the bond is. Alex has said this about City. To be honest, I think Manchester City is one of the best teams in the world right now. Everyone dreams of playing here, and that goes for me as well. I try to learn every single day, and I'm going to fight here. That's fighting talk. He wants to stay. So, honestly, I just don't know which way this Real Betis thing will go. The feeling is after the Wolves turning them down, that he would stay. Now, it may be that Pep or the management team or the board or whatever have told Alex that he really doesn't have a future here, which would be a shame. But I think that's the truth. I mean, we've lost KDB, and that might have, obviously that's pushed Alex one rung higher in the ladder, but there's probably still 7 or 8 players ahead of him, and it's still really going to be a tough ask for him to get any game time at Manchester City. So once again, I'll say the same thing. I think he does need to move on. Whether he wants to go on loan or be sold, maybe that's up to him. Maybe he'll take the loan option and fight and show how good he really is and try to come back. I just don't really know. But right now, I think that in his best interest, he has to go out and play football. VAR next on the list. There's talk that UEFA are looking at implementing VAR or using it from the quarter-final stage of the Champions League onwards. Now, we all know some dodgy decisions went on last year. Let's not hark on too much about the past, but there were some really bad, poor decisions that affected our club. So it has a personal impact, and we have a personal interest in what happens with VAR. And I think with the speed of the game, with the sort of money that's in the game, and with some of the absolute rank, terrible, shocking decisions that happen from time to time, I'm not going to blame too much the referees, because as I said, the game is so fast, everybody can make mistakes. But I think it's high time that we have VAR used in the Champions League and the Premier League. I don't think it's going to, the delays in making decisions, that will get better. Those delays will get shorter and shorter as we get more used to VAR and as the officials get more used to it. And I just think to make the correct call, get the decisions right, I just think that's more important than a 30-second or a minute's delay in a game. I just think it's more important to get the decisions right, and I think it will definitely help clubs like us. For instance, as I said, last year we had so many decisions against us, so many in the Premier League especially, so many fouls, dangerous, downright obscene fouls against our players, and where the opposition player should have been sent off, and sometimes they didn't even get a card for it. Absolutely ridiculous decisions. Lots of penalty shouts that were turned down, and you could see they were quite obvious penalties. So it takes away I think it takes some pressure off the referees. They may be more willing to make a decision. They might hide behind the VAR and be more reluctant to make a decision. But I think in the long term, they will make more decisions themselves, and then it's up to the VAR officials to decide whether those decisions were right at the end of the day. And I just think it should be implemented. We're living in the dark ages by not doing it. Next, Jason Denayer. The rumours were around on social media that we'd sold Jason Denayer to Lyon for £10 million plus bonuses. There's no doubt that we did sell Jason Denayer to Lyon, but I believe that Lyon have actually said and confirmed the price that we paid was €6.5 million plus €3.5 million in add-ons for, I guess, for appearances or getting to Champions League or whatever they may be. That seems to be the right sort of level, 5 or 6 million for Jason and a few million extra if he does really well. I'd be surprised if we've not got a buyback clause or a sell-on clause. But on the other hand, if I was Jason Denayer, would you want to come back to City? I think it must be 3 years ago that we persuaded him to sign a new contract, a new long-term contract. And all we've really done since then is bumped him around on loans to different places. And I'm glad he's moved. It was right that he moved on a permanent deal somewhere. And I hope he has a great time in Lyon. And I'll be keeping my eyes peeled to see how well he does there. Now, next on the list is Daniel Arzani. Just to recap, we bought Daniel from our sister club, Melbourne City, quite cheaply. And we've sent him out on loan to Celtic for 2 seasons. I just want to mention the comments made by Socceroos chief Graham Arnold about Daniel Arzani and his move to Celtic. At Melbourne City, he did exceptionally well. He's got something that a lot of Australian youngsters don't have, and that's flair. You can give him the ball and he's great in a 1v1 situation. He can make things happen, as he did at the World Cup when he came on. Going to Celtic with Brendan Rodgers is a fantastic move, and Tommy Rogic, I think that's his name, is with him to help him on his way. The Scottish League will be a good step up for him. What's important is that the kid gets game time. It's a winning culture at Celtic, but they also play close to 60 games a year. I imagine Daniel will get a lot of game time. Here. I mean, I think that as well. I think once he gets there, once he shows them his ability, what he can do, what sort of trickery he's got, I think he'll get plenty of game times. I think in his first season there, I'd be happy if he gets about 30 games, gets involved with them, gets proper game times. Not just involved in 30 games, starting 30 games in a season. If Celtic are going to play 50 to 60 games a season, 30 games would be a great start for Daniel Arzani. Playing 60 games at 19, 20 years old is quite a lot. So let's see how he does. I mean, as I said before, since he's in Scotland, we'll be able to watch him a little bit more and find out how good he really is. Next, it's Alan Shearer and his comments about Sergio Aguero. Now, Alan Shearer has said that he believes Sergio Aguero is the best overseas player to have ever graced the Premier League. Now, that's really high praise from the all-time leading Premier League goalscorer with 260 goals. Now, that would put Sergio Aguero above such a fantastic player as Thierry Henry, and he really was, I think, one of the best in the Premier League, best foreign player in the Premier League. Is Sergio better than him? For me, it's kind of neck and neck right now. I think in the next couple of seasons that Sergio's got with us, if he can carry on banging in the goals and putting in 20-25 league goals every season, I think there's every chance that he'll be considered the best foreign import into the Premier League. I think that will probably just nudge him past Henry, especially if Sergio can keep up his ratio of goals to games, which is slightly better than Thierry's at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I would just love Sergio to get 30 goals a season, finish off his City career, nudging 300 goals for the club, and maybe winning a Champions League. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I think he'd go with sadness in our hearts, but we'd wish him well, and fingers crossed he can carry on banging in the goals. Next, I'm going to quickly mention the Ubtech deal. I think that's what it's called, Ubtech. They're one of the biggest robotics companies in the world, a Chinese company, and I think they sponsored City for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they've just I think recently announced that they're going to extend their sponsorship for another 2 years. They'll continue that with the option for a 3rd year, and now instead of just sponsoring City, they're also going to be sponsoring some other clubs in the City Football Group. I believe they're going to be sponsoring New York City FC and Melbourne City. And as I said before, it seems part of this new strategy of City, you're not just going to be sponsoring City, but you're going to be sponsoring clubs around the world, and you'll get your name known around the world. And if you remember, as part of the City Football Group, we've got New York City in America, we've got Melbourne City in Australia, we've got Club Talk in Uruguay, we've got Girona in Spain, we've got an investment in Yokohama Mariners in Japan. And as I said before, I'm sure in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll get 4 or 5 more clubs around the world. So any sponsor getting involved with the City Football Group has the opportunity to be exposed to such diverse markets, from America to Australia to possibly India and China and England and the UK and countries in Europe as well, all over the world in South America. So it's just going to be an amazing opportunity for these sponsors, and I think that's why Uptech have renewed their deal or extended their current sponsorship with us. And lastly, on this bumper update, I'm just about out of breath now, if that's ever possible, is the news that we've signed a 16-year-old kid called Gavin Bazunu from Shamrock Rovers in Ireland for €400,000. Now, he's a kid, he's only 16 years old, I think he's still at school, and what we're going to do is let him stay at Shamrock Rovers until he's finished his education. I think they have a leaving certificate in Ireland, so he'll stay till he's completed that, and we'll see what after that what happens. I think he's just another kid that's going to come to the academy. He's a goalkeeper, but he's just going to come to the academy as he's only 16 years old. So nobody should be holding out any hopes that he's a replacement for Bravo as our number 2. This kid is one for the future. I think a lot of other clubs were interested in him. I think Liverpool is... there was talk on Merseyside, some of their fans saying that they were going to buy him. Well, he's not going there. He's coming to Manchester, and we'll see what he does. I mean, I think that we won't really know how good he is for a year or two. But I'm very hopeful because if you see quite recently who we've had as our reserve or academy keepers, we've had Angus Gunn. He's very, very good indeed. He's even been called up for England for training. And he's now moved to Southampton. We've got Aaron Muric, who I think is a very, very good keeper indeed. He's now on loan at NSC Breda. I think he'll go far. We've got Danny Grimshaw coming through. He looks another great keeper in the making. So I firmly believe that Gavin Bazunu will be another one of them. Another good keeper, a lot of prospects. Hope he does well. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's very easy down below. There's a big red button that says subscribe. Just click on that. Click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as we put out new videos. And as I said before, we will be putting out a mega amount of content this season. We're putting out at the moment 1 or 2 videos every day. We've done Andy's just finished the 6-part David White interview series, and any old-timer City fan should be really into those videos, and any new City fan or more recent City fan, you should really have a watch of those videos, because they do give a lot of background into one of City's legends. I mean, I think he's you can actually say that about him, and you can see why he only scored 96 goals for City, and why he didn't score something like 150 or 180 goals. I think he says in one of his videos he should have stayed at City, and Sergio Aguero should have been breaking his records, not somebody else's. So go and watch those videos. Go and look at the other content we put out, interviews with other ex-City players we did over the summer. A lot of content with previews and for matches and fan reviews, and chatting with representatives from other clubs. Absolute ton of content. So we'll carry on doing that for you every single day of the season, every single day of the year. I mean, I'm sure we'll be here Christmas Day giving you a little update on some news. And yeah, just tell your friends, get everybody involved, contribute if you can. We love getting your comments on YouTube and Twitter. And I think you'll see just about every single comment gets a reply on YouTube. We're really in it for you fans. We want you fans to comment, and we want to have a debate with you guys. See you around, Blues.